Dude, you should have like a little theme song, like an old something or something.
Yeah. This much, my finger in it. That's gross.
Hey, no worries, bro. I don't care about stuff like that, man. Come on. You know I don't care about that, bro.
We'll do it.
Should I put it down lower? Like yours?
Mine's just out of the way of my beard.
Okay, so it don't matter now.
Go ahead, scratching. Cheers. Thanks for having me. Oh, so good. Hey guys, I'm here at my friend Matt Cranley's studio, Black Square Studio, and his house, and we just got done with the first installment of Drinking with Dreads. We talked about everything from his inspirations to music, what it took for him to leave a full-time salary and launch his own studio, go out on his own, and how his faith comes into all this, into music, his inspiration, and his dreams for the future. So grab a drink and hope you enjoy. Cool, so yeah, I'm here with my friend Matt here at his house and studio. Black Square Studio, right?
Black Square
Studio, yeah. So you invited me over here, and we're enjoying the Goose Island Bourbon County. So it's a stout Asian bourbon barrels. And yeah, we're just gonna hang out.
This is absolutely amazing.
It's so good. I'm so glad you picked this one.
These cups are actually brought to you by my friend Brandy. She's awesome. She was sweet enough to buy these, not for our show, but I can say it's for our show.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd look cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Brandy, thanks for donating these glasses for the show. And
someone get this beer guy. That's me. Perfect.
And mine says "Save water, drink beer."
Yeah.
Which actually was the original. That was the slogan of what was it? Saint Arnold. He was like a bishop in France.
Yeah.
It was actually unsafe to drink the water. They didn't know why. They didn't know that like if you the process of becoming beer is you boil the water and whatnot, and it kills the bacteria. They didn't know. All they knew is if they drank beer, they were safe. So all their congregation was like, "Yeah, we like that advice." Cool.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll just fact check that. Like check that against Snopes.
Yeah.
So I know you, but like, who are you? Where are you from? Parents, siblings, like the good stuff.
Oh man, I'm from Sugar Land, Texas. I grew up in Lake Jackson, Texas. There's so many good friends out there. But yeah, I grew up. I went to school originally for audio engineering and recording, and did that for 2 years over at San Jacinto Community College. They actually have a pretty sweet program out there. Really amazing equipment. I think they still have a solid state Logic console and everything. Just it doesn't even look like they would have such a massive studio, but man, what a great opportunity. But so I went to school for that, and then I was like, okay, after I finished that, I was like, you know, I want to take a year off, do some ministry, and I got hooked up with a ministry called Net Ministries. And after that, I heard about Franciscan University, a great Catholic college with like-minded individuals, and then I went there, and then became a campus minister over at St. Leo in Florida, and then after that, I felt the call to move back, and slowly but surely I did youth ministry for a little while for 3 years over at St. John Vianney, which was cool, and then God gave me the opportunity to kind of do what I was always hoping to do, which was you know, starting this business and starting my own recording and doing that full time. So, which was great.
Yeah. So we're like, just for a second, like what is Net?
Oh, Net, man, it's a great ministries,
yeah.
national evangelization teams. They're based in St. Paul, Minnesota. And actually, my brother and two sisters went, and I just grew up seeing how cool these people are. Basically, there would be like teams of 10 to 12 Catholic young adults, right out of high school or in maybe in college years or in between college years. And they would always come through my local town, kind of like a traveling band. And me being a young musician, wild at heart musician type, I was just like, can I just like jump in the van with you guys?
Yeah, here we go.
I always had like a oh man, those guys are, man, what a lot. That's cool. And then I would see my brother and sisters. They all went for a year, and they came back, and their faith was very personal and really alive. And I had never seen that before. And so I was really impressed. And so I always had that in the back of my mind. I was like, oh, maybe I'll check out Net one day. And yeah, and Net gave me some really awesome training, just how to be a professional, or just, you know, good in general, and you know, how to do the ministry well. And a lot of people would say when they go on Net training, man, it's just amazing training and practical. All right, so basically my year on Net, people were like, oh, you must be good, because what we would do is we'd share our testimonies, we'd put on small groups, we'd lead games, and just make a fun retreat. So people think, oh yeah, man, like you must be really good. When I got off in Net, you must be good at like leading small group. I was like, actually, I probably just only did all the things that I shouldn't have done. Like, not intentionally, but like I get frustrated. The kids like, come on, guys. Like, I'm like, stop being an idiot. But even Net says, like, it's like, you know, you got to remember this year's not necessarily to the people, for the people that you minister to. This is actually years for you. And it's funny, and you come to, it's almost like you feel duped. You're like, dang it, I just became a better person. Yeah. So, that was all for me.
But
no, it was a great experience, and that I highly recommend checking it out. It's one of actually the least expensive ministries to be a part of these days. I've actually looked into a lot of different ministries, and you got to raise your whole salary.
Yeah.
And, oh man, at least for me, I can barely like raise my own salary. Wait, I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, but a lot of cool stuff. But but there's a lot of great ministries out there.
Yeah, they attract the coolest people. Like when we were in Colorado doing ministry, we had a Net team come out, and like normally like you're all split in different houses around, but like we lived in the old rectory, which had like 14 different beds or whatever. Like first floor, there were like 3 rooms plus a pull-out couch, and then the second floor had like 3 separate sections with like 3 or 4 beds in each one. So I was like, Erica and Eleanor were back here in Texas, and I was like, I can house them all in one place. Guys on the first floor, girls on the second floor. They're like, that's amazing, because like never happens. They're always split up, so it was so fun. Like half the team that year nationwide like got the flu, so like half the team was like sick, and I got to cook them dinner, and they got to watch like our DVDs, and the rest went and did the retreats. So much fun.
That's cool.
But it's like, where's music come from? So like I went to one of your shows at Pennison's, and I got to like hang out with your dad, who I hadn't met before. And so I remember asking him like, so are you musical? Like, is your wife musical? But like, where's this come from?
Well, my dad, he has no idea, and my mom thinks it's not from her. Honestly, I think it's from, I think both sides of my family. My dad is actually really sweet. He's really into genealogy and stuff, and just following back, like, okay, what were the jobs? Where did they come from? Whatnot. It's really neat to just hear these stories. But apparently, my grandfather was his parents were like they spent they had a farm and whatnot, but they also would do ministry together and stuff, and they would sing and whatnot, which is interesting because I'd never heard that until recently. I was like, oh wow, cool. And then my great uncle, I think, it was a different time back then. It was like the early 50s or something. He wanted to be a musician, and at the time it's like, man, it's kind of impractical. And so my grandfather actually said, make him go to med school like us. And so he did, but he always had that ache in his heart that he never did it. And so, I don't know. I just, I think it's been in the family. Honestly, my mom, she would never say it, but she always sings all the time. Honestly, I think it's from her, but she would never agree with that. But.
So like, I mean, like, it's been in your family, which you didn't realize or learn until like recently. So, other than like your mom singing around the house, like, which is kind of was your thing.
Man, honestly, like, it was, I remember clearly, I think I was like 7 or 8, 9, just young. My brother had a junior high band, and it was like grunge was out, and like they were listening to Pantera and Metallica.
Did they have a wallet chain?
And I remember clearly like listening to Nirvana, at least whenever I was like in freshman, not freshman, seriously. No, first grade. And it was around the time that Chris Cobain died, and like I thought, it was right before that, I was like, oh yeah, I listen to Kurt Cobain, whatever, I'm cool, first grader, But it was cool. But I always like adored whatever my brothers listened to, and he had a band, just briefly. I don't think they ever played any shows, but just a bunch of friends playing in my garage, a real garage band. Yes, they used to have real garage band. I think they do still. But I remember when I saw them playing, and it probably wasn't that great. They were just having fun playing their favorite metal songs, Pantera or whatever. And I just remember like the hugest smile that I recall ever having to that point, you know, and it was around music. And so it was almost like, I guess you could say God was like, hey, take note for later. So yeah, I was like, I guess it was the first time I was like, whoa. I mean, I've always been into video games and Mario and Zelda.
Yeah.
But
and like that music is like iconic. I mean, like you can think back to like video games, like even movies, like if you don't even have to have the movie on or the game on, but like if it comes on, you're like, that's from Mario, that's from Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park. Like I know for me, like one of the only soundtracks I ever owned, there are a few others, but like was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Like I loved that soundtrack. That was like second grade, and I think I had that cassette. Like music just like can do that. Let me check it, make sure it's still going. I was like super paranoid. There's probably like a do not disturb thing that I don't know about.
Dude,
but
you know
so
what?
we'll see.
I have made that mistake before where I'm like, I'll like be recording. I'm like, dude, I just went through 4 songs, like, and they were freaking perfect. And I would go over, and it wasn't even recording. Yeah, that's only happened a couple times. But see, here's the thing with what I do. It's funny. My producer, my teacher, who was originally my professor, his name was Les. He was really cool. He's my teacher when I went to school. And he said, actually, like, I didn't go to school. I just have 50 years of doing all the wrong things and making mistakes. Yeah. And that right there is what I'm very passionate about. That's what drives me. That's the fire in me. Is like, okay, it's like, I've heard that quote. What was that quote? It's like 10,000 hours. Yeah. And you can master anything. I don't remember who said it, but that's what I'm really passionate about, is like, and what I do.
And that's so, like we came over here over the Christmas break and for Erica to like record a song or something, and like which is her first time recording anything, and that's how you did it. You told her like, my job is to, you do it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and then I find like the gold nuggets like in there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who record in general, I did when I first started out. I was like, I remember first time my band, we were called Smile and Nod in high school, some good buddies, and went into the studio. I was just scared to death, and I was just like, wait, we have to pay this guy an hour by hour, like, I hope I can play it right. Don't be mad at me, guys, Yeah. But something I've learned over the years, and even when I experienced even back then, like the producer was just always really helpful, and it's like, that's just it. It's like, it's very rare that anyone's a Miles Davis, anyone's a Frank Sinatra. I mean, they were raised with like, oh, okay, like, I got to get a huge big band, and I'm paying everybody, so I got to get this the first time. Yeah. Which I'm trying as hard as I can as a musician to become that musician. I think that's the joy and the excitement, is to always look at the masters like Frank Sinatra and whatnot, and like, this is the way we got to go. But we've got a lot more leeway these days. So, I mean, technically, I've seen like people, I mean, you could take like an iPhone recording and send it to people, and they can bring quality out of it, which I just think is amazing. But like these days, like, there's a lot of things that you can do, and when I'm working with a musician, I let them know, it's like, hey, look, like, I'm not there like taking note of all, like, oh, you made a mistake there, or you made a mistake there. No, like, I see, it's just like, actually, have you seen Buster Scruggs? Yeah, we talked about the other. If you've seen Tom Waits, his part as like the gold digger, he's like, he doesn't look at all the dirt that he had to get away from. Yeah. He saw, oh, I got 5. Yeah. Come here, pocket. I got 5 pieces of gold here. So that's one of my favorite ones. But it's like, that's just it, and that's how, I mean, if you're Christian, and that's how God sees us. It's like, and that's how I feel like we should see others. And that we work, it's like, there it is. There's 5 pieces of gold there. Ooh, okay, let's try that. So when people, it's so, yeah, I feel like that's something I can offer, is like my exuberance for music and my joy of creativity. And as I like check out the pros, and I'm like constantly studying, like, how do the pros do it? How do the pros do it? I'm always studying, like going to college. It's like, all right, let me just read how everybody does it. And they're all. It's like, I keep seeing over and over again. It's like, well, honestly, if you want to be like the most desirable producer, or have that childlike joy. Let them see that you're like passionate and excited about what you're doing, and that and really I try to tell people this, and it's honest because I just love music this much. But like, yes, I do this for a job, but honestly, you're paying me to become obsessed with your music. And so, not obsessed like I'm gonna like show up at your songs like house at 3 a.m. and like creep in the bushes or anything, but like almost, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they
you
want
need somebody.
You to be
yeah, so
invested.
I mean, yeah, so it's like that's just it. It's like whatever your job is. Like I mean, that's exactly right. It's like if you've got somebody paying you, they want to feel like you're as excited about their art as they are. And that's something I feel like I've always had I mean, all my friends were like, oh, when I finally started doing this full time, they're like, finally, like, I was like, what? You saw this too? I was like, oh, cool. It's like, yeah, you experience music so much deeper than a lot of people. A lot of my friends tell me, I'm like, geez, wow, thank you. And I'm just trying to be as cool as the people I think are cool. So.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think, like you mentioned, like, you know, back in the day when recording was pretty much just like set, like you better nail it now, and you're more flexible nowadays because of the new technology. And although there are benefits to that, so you can find like the best pieces of all 8-10 recordings of this one song and then put that together for the song. But do you think there's some drawbacks to it? Like, is there some you know, negatives to it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just learning as I go, like everybody. But I mean, I think there's a lot of the heart, a lot of the sometimes a lot of the quality. I mean, we used to record on tape, and the distance between the distance between what you heard through your speakers and what the artist heard in the studio was minimal. Was the most minimal. I mean, it would go through a microphone. It would go through obviously like you know, a couple things to boost the signal and to fatten it up, and then after that, you know, it was very little. It's like what they heard. It's like, oh, print that, put that on, you know, press it as a record now, you know, and that's what you're hearing, because they weren't in a rush, you know. But then once, like, you know, the whole revolution of the iPods and whatnot in music, it's like, whoa, all we could do is like, well, if you wanted more than, you know, I don't know, the normal amount on a record, 25 minutes a side, you would have like a double record, whatever, like no rush, you know. But all the quality was there. But now it's, you know, because of like, you know, the fact that we can stream things and whatnot, is like we've crushed the quality down to MP3. And I remember my teacher even saying that when I was back going to school for it. He's like, you know, I mean, is that good enough these days for most people? Apparently. But it's interesting. I mean, and I think it's beautiful. It's a great thing moving forward, and we're always moving forward. We shouldn't always like be stuck in the past, and it's like always try to be inventive, always be creative, move forward. I mean, that's part of it too. But yeah, I think a lot of artists are like trying to go back to find a middle ground. It's like, oh, you can buy vinyl again, obviously. And
yeah,
it's like and that's just it. It's like I don't have a million vinyl. I just buy the vinyls that the albums that really have meant something to me. But yeah, but I think there are some drawbacks. But also at the same time, I think there's a lot of, you know, like I said, we're revisiting, you know, some things too. So
yeah. I guess I thought more along the lines of like, you know, you hear like a song, someone like put out this music, and then like you hear them live, and you're like, oh yeah, they actually can't sing.
Well, it's hard. Like, it's hard, yeah. And
is that too judgmental? Like, I don't know.
Well, no, yeah, it's tricky, man. I mean, there's some people that have a cool thing and they work with a good producer and they can really squeeze out some good stuff, and I think that's great. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think a lot of people, they love an artist who can also express to them and show them something of themselves. It's like to remind them who themselves. I was watching a show on Bruce Springsteen, and they were just saying that too. It's like he was saying, I'm not here to tell y'all anything, I'm just here to remind you who you are. I was like, ooh,
yeah, that's deep. Yeah,
but I mean, that's just it. It's like, you know, I think people want to come to a show because they want to see like some people up there that remind them of them and their friends. It's like, what? Like, they got like a few buddies up there, and like they're having the time of their life, and like they're making everybody have fun, and the whole place is involved, and like that's the goal ever since like the Beatles, man. Ever since the Mop Tops, like I think it was Pink Floyd's drummer who said that. It's like ever since the Mop Tops, like we've wanted to believe in this like dream, you know, of like being with your best buds, but sometimes it's not complicated that. You got to put some work in. You know,
and like the reason that people are there, like paid money for the ticket and like to travel and get there is like something in your music hit them personally and like, well, I want to go see him or her
it's
or
like,
whoever.
Oh man, yeah, like this is why I go work. You know, I think it was, dang it, what's his name? Robin Williams. He said the reason, yes, we need doctors. Yes, we need teachers. Yes, we need businessmen, but like we need all these things to you know, succeed as a people. But the reason we work and go to work is because of movies, art, beauty, so that you can go and experience those things. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So good.
Yeah,
so I mean, and so that encourages me. Sometimes I'm like, I think people are thinking like, dude, come on, get together, go do something really important, like you know, being miserable at a desk job, like me, you know, or whatever. But it's like, well, depending on what it is, you know. I mean, maybe you're not meant for a desk job. That's what I'm saying here. It's like, you know, maybe, yeah. But then again, like, I mean, that's the way it's been since eons. You know, it's like that's what makes culture is singing. It's dining, food. You know, it's like, you know. Like food and music and culture, like that's why we go to Louisiana still. I think you know, we go to the French Quarter because we're like, hey man, like there's something unique that's New Orleans, you know.
Yeah, and you can track it back through history. Like, how we get this gumbo? Like, whoa, there's a story.
It's like we want to be a part of. We want to be a part of something as a people. I think that's why you want to go to your local bar. It's like everyone wants to go where everyone knows your name. I wish that Cheers.
Cheers, don't you want to go?
That would have been great. Yeah, that would have been great. It would have been a great moment. When people are like, but it's like, you can't even get the words right.
This guy, that's my favorite show. But like you mentioned Bruce Springsteen, and so like, who are, you know, your musical influences, or what are or what?
Honestly, I'm just fascinated, as somebody would be fascinated with like. And I am fascinated with like scripture and my faith and stuff like that, my upbringing. But I kind of have that passion with music too. It's like I want to know the way that some people might study scripture. Like, you know, I want to study kind of my heroes. You know, it's like, okay, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, who's your favorite artist? Oh, they might say Hillsong or Katy Perry or something like that. It's like, okay, well, who did they listen to? Michael Jackson, James Brown, Prince. Ooh, that's interesting. Who are those guys? Let me look them up. Little quick wiki search. Oh, cool. And so it's like, I want to hear about. Ooh, I want to listen to Johnny Cash. I want to listen to Willie Nelson. I want to listen to all these people that were big movers and shakers and huge, important to their genres. But I want to know, who did they listen to? I think Jack White, when I was like watching a documentary called It Might Get Loud, awesome, check it out. But he said, if you're like curious about rock and roll, you love rock and roll or whatever it is, or if you keep tracing it back, you're on a freight train to the blues. And it's like the earliest, and you keep going back, and you get some richer stuff, and like that's what I want. It's like, okay, so we've got like, for example, the blues hugely influenced and inspired. Okay, so like you got like Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Chuck Berry, all these guys all of a sudden get the attention of some four boys out in Liverpool and some boys in the suburbs, the Rolling Stones, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, like we have no business hearing this music. It's not from our culture in any sort, but like they related to that ache, to that pain, to that suffering, and they're like, oh man, I feel ignored. I feel. You know, and it's like, you know, as the youth back in the, I guess, 60s or whatnot, you know, how they felt, I don't know. But it influenced the Rolling Stones, it influenced the Beatles. And then who did the Beatles and the Rolling Stones influence? Obviously everybody. So it's like, I'm like, I just feel like there's too much like raw materials there to like just let it pass by or forget. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh man, I bet you there's something more. That's why I have a personal love affair with the blues. I love it. Because, well, it gives meaning to my own struggles too, like, you know, and you know, the drudgery of every day, you know, how hard it is sometimes, you know. It's like, oh man, like other people are feeling it. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like all the times, this is the second time, but like coming to your place, like I walk in, like the blues or soul, like old gospels like blaring, or like, you know, sometimes you'll post super Yeah, that's what I walked into. Like,
This is good.
You'll post like super old like gospel like online, like you gotta check this out.
Well,
like,
just because
even like old preachers.
I'm like, there's one or two people that actually like listen to it, but I don't care because I believe in it. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm like, what's that?
sweetheart.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, like like paying homage to the people that influenced these people and these people and this people and like you.
They're like our grandfathers. I remember watching Jimmy Page on It Might Get Loud and Jack White's. Well, it wasn't Jack White's. It was just something with. So It Might Get Loud is a movie about. Or it's a kind of idea of a Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, The Edge from U2, and then Jack White. So 3 modern guitar players coming together. What's gonna happen? And Jimmy Page was like, there's a scene where Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin is bringing like the camera guy into his personal little record collection. He's like, and he maintains this youthful exuberance, this joy, and you feel like you're seeing Jimmy Page as like a little boy, like he never lost it because he's like all these guys like Link Ray and just different guys like it's like they're old friends that I would. Even growing up before Zeppelin, it's like old friends that I would just pay a visit to, and that's true. It's like in Catholic Church, we've got the community of saints. It's like we look at the saints as our brothers and sisters, and we can take influence from their lives. And it's like in blues, and we've got the patron saints of like jazz. In America, it's like. Ella Fitzgerald and stuff like that. It's like we got the page, and we can get so much out of like the stories and the heartaches and all this stuff that you hear in this music and that you relate so deeply to. It's like I want to study the lives of the musical saints too, as well as I mean,
it really makes the phrase.
Well, not study the habits of, but obviously, like it's like, but. Their heartache or their influences, all the things that are good, I can take those good things too.
I think it brings that phrase to life of like, there's nothing new under the sun. Like 50, 100 years ago, like they're still experiencing heartache and sorrow and struggle, and like I can relate to that. And they put that into music.
What's interesting? So I was just telling you before we had this beautiful camera hooked up. We talked about how like. Every 10 years, you notice like every 10 years there was like a genre. Oh, the 50s. Oh yeah, it's very 50s. Oh, 60s. Yeah, I know that sound. 70s. Oh yeah, disco and punk music, whatever. You're like, 80s. Oh yeah, we know 80s. 90s. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. 2000s. Yeah. 2010s. Maybe. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
There's something.
2020s.
I think we're still figuring that out.
I guess we're figuring. Honestly, what I think is. It's like we've explored everything. We've gone from the blues and Zeppelin and bands like that flipped the blues on its head. It's like, oh, that's what you can do with the blues? Wow. And then and then we went to the 70s and with the 80s. It's like, and then we kind of stretched that far as we could, I suppose. In the 90s, they took it with another direction with grunge and then 2000s, we have new rock, new metal, sorry, forgive me. Or just different genres that were kind of new, and now that we're in, I think this is what we're all doing. Is I think we're taking everything that has been done, and we're just kind of making little mixes. Oh man, I want to take Ray Manzarek from the Doors' organ sound, and that's what I'm trying to do here at this studio. It's like oh, let's take that and let's add Norah Jones's stuff. Oh, that's that vocal or the piano style or. I think that's what people are doing. It's like we're taking everything that has influenced us in the past, we're making something new. And I think there's a lot of good things to expect in music to come, because of that. But and also, we are still pushing forward, but I think funk's come back. I don't know if you've heard of Wolfpack, dude. Oh my god, check out Wolfpack. It's good stuff. But there's like an underground of funk music that's coming back. And I always I was bumping like Funkadelic in Parliament in high school, and everybody was like, I had like a little cheap subwoofer in the back. It was just like, I'd roll down. I was like, looked at like I was a freaking idiot, dude. I was like, are you kidding? How could you not love?
Yeah. Like, what's your problem? This is great.
They're gonna think getting down. There's a whole lot of going down.
So love it.
But it just feels good. And I think people, nowadays, it brings me joy because I think it's coming back. People are like, you can't get better than that feeling of the funk, that bass line, the drum. It's
Yeah, I love it.
But guys like James Brown, his influence, like great influence. The guy started with soul and like the early stuff, like Little Richard, stuff like that, you know, and like he was around that kind of circuit and whatnot. And then the man invented, so he did that, and he did Live at the Apollo. Mm-hmm. It's like he showed like, hey, the world, this is what we've had the whole time, and you ignored us or whatnot. And they're like, what? You know? And then you've got, and then he invented funk music. Mm-hmm. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, Cold Sweat. It's like, what? And it's like the band, nobody had ever heard anything like that before. And then in the 70s, people thought, oh yeah, that was the lower period. Not actually. Yeah. Like a lot of like hip hop was sampled. A lot of stuff. And I think Michael Jackson stuff and Prince took a lot from, I don't know, what. Yeah, there's a lot, lot of good stuff.
That's huge because like...
But he basically pioneered so much music, funk, and then he influenced hip-hop, and then but like, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah, yeah, because unless you look back, you don't realize that a lot of things that got mainstream were actually taken from, like, well, this has been going on for a while, and you just took what we were doing, like a lot of what Elvis Presley, and although Elvis Presley like had a lot of respect for the originals and like blues and jazz and all that, like some of his songs were actually other people's songs, but you don't know that unless you know like the history of music. Like Hound Dog, like someone else wrote and sang that first. That was out for a while, and he like remade it. Then it got popular. You know?
Well, here's the thing with Elvis, man. It's like I saw this when I was watching The Last Waltz, the Martin Scorsese film about the last concert of the band. And anyway, they talk about how Elvis got all those moves, you know, like the Elvis pelvis they had back in the day. It's like, oh my gosh, that was so like once like America saw like this guy shaking his pelvis, like that is the most scandalous thing. Everybody thought, oh man, what a heathen, or whatever. But all he was taking it from was all those minstrel groups that would go through the South or wherever he was at, and just back in the day, and they would start with like, you know, a healer or a minister or whatnot, something for everybody, and then like once all the kids would go to bed, you know, there'd be something a little bit more for the adults or whatnot. The midnight ramble is what they called it, and that's where they would do like the chicken walk, like the Chuck Berry, aka the Marty McFly, like, that was all like, you know, like Angus Young, whatever. Like you see that it all came from that minstrel group. Like these people were trying out things like, how can I get people's attention? How can I entertain? The hustle, you know. And then you see like Elvis was like, he grew up going to those. You know, that's so beautiful. It's like such an authentic, beautiful thing. Oh, it's like, oh, the minstrel thing is coming to town. It's like this is the only thing that's going on. It's like, let's go out. And then you got to see all this authentic, beautiful stuff that only experienced in this tour, a hodgepodge of really cool stuff. And then that's where he got it. That's where he learned it, you know. And it's like, so it's kind of cool to see. It's like, well, it's not something new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Miley Cyrus. Like twerking became like a huge deal because it was like she was doing it.
I didn't know that.
And then it's like, wait, like twerking's been like a thing like forever. Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, twerking's terrible. I was like, it's been around forever. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What influenced you, or what gave you the courage, the balls, the whatever, to leave, you know, youth ministry, you know, full-time salary, benefits maybe, I don't know, like to go into music full-time? Because that's like starting, you're basically starting a business, like yourself.
Yeah.
Like what was the movement? Like what made you step out and take that chance?
Well, there was honestly, there's too much pride like in myself to do it before I did it, because I was like, man, I know too many people that are so in debt. It's just, and like, you know, I believe in myself, but do I believe in myself enough, like, to where I could go into, like, you know, major debt or whatever and find my way out? It's like, ugh. But anyway, like, in our family, we had a little a beach thing that my grandfather had or whatnot, and basically we sold it because we couldn't afford anymore. But we had like a little bit retirement money from it, just not much, just you know, enough to like, oh, that's nice, you know, something small. And I was like, well, oh, that's an unexpected thing we had, and so we basically took. So I kind of took a leap with that, and just like a small investment, and I took a chance and I did it. You know, I know a lot of people don't have that opportunity, but I was like, hey man, I'll jump with it. So I took a chance, and I was like, well, since I have a little bit of investment money, I can take a chance and jump with it, and I did. And something I didn't realize was, like, you know, I also the money wasn't enough that it would have taken away the stress or the fear. It was just small enough money that I'm like, okay, it's a little something. You know, it makes me feel a little bit better to jump out there. Yeah. And so I was able to do that. And so by the grace of God or whatnot, like, I had that little small gift, and I was like, hey man, you know what? Like, it's worth. I'm not as wussy enough to take the leap. So I did, and I did it for a year, and I was like, man, wow, I guess I can do it. God does provide. You know, all my friends that said that they did it before, I sort of didn't believe them. I was like, yeah, right. You know, it's like, well, it's true. You know, when you have your joy, when you've got excitement, when you've got a passion for something, I think, well, that just creates its own business. You know, people want to be around happy, alive people. I mean, I'd like to say I am. I mean, I don't know, but I'm gonna try my best, you know, to be alive, you know. But yeah, one project always leads to another, and I always have what I need, and it keeps getting better, and so that's kind of how I started. Was borrowing a little money and paying myself back, and yeah.
So what was the vision behind, or how did you come to Black Square?
Black Square Studios, that's a good one. This is Black Square Studios. As you can see on the walls, we have black squares. Yes. You are hearing Howlin' Wolf singing 40 Days and 40 Nights. Very good. So we've got drum set. We've got Animal, our resident drummer. He is on call. He's currently taking a nap. No, he's not. Okay, so if you need drums, we've got a resident drummer. We got drum set. This is 1990s Indonesian birch Yamaha drum set. Check it out. All right, this is our live room right here. This is where you can record an entire live band. And yes.
What's this?
This is a Hammond organ. A little Hammond. I guess it's not a B3, but it's basically the same model. So we've got a lot of gospel and blues music and you know, stuff like that. It works well with that. Come this way, brother.
This is the wall. This is the way. As a musician, I am a little, you know, sometimes chaos creates creativity. No, it's an art piece. It's different things that I collected over the years. I come here into the main studio.
This place is my workstation. There's always music. There's always vinyl out to study and dissect, or even create my own loops for different artists, sampling and stuff like that. So yeah, as you can see, it's never organized because I'm always pulling stuff out. But it is organized. Next time you come, of course. You can find everything. You can find everything you need. No, it will be organized when you come over. I swear. It will. Okay, so we've got we've got 2 Apollo units, which are really nice from Universal Audio. I can run 16 channels at a time, so each one can do 8 channels. Yeah, we got Atom speakers. They're the Atom A8X speakers. They're made in Germany. They're very nice. And yeah, this is where the magic can happen. This is our future vocal booth, which we are in process of building right now, and where you can create all of your glorious vocal tones. Yes, this is Black Square Studios. Welcome. So back, and yeah.
So what was the vision behind, or how did you come to Black Square Studios?
Black Square Studios, that's a good one. So my dad was always a sweetheart. Growing up, I always had, anytime I wanted something cool that a kid wanted, like go-karts or whatever, it was like, dude, I need a go-kart. Let's go out and buy a go-kart, Dad. I saw one at the lumber store or whatever, like over at the local lumber store, there'd always be go-karts. I'm like, oh man, that would be so cool. I was just, Mario Kart had just come out, like their first one. You know?
Yeah, I remember mowing lawns to get a go-kart.
Oh yeah, I was like, dude, please, you know, like, and there'd always be one neighborhood kid with a go-kart or whatever. And anyway, I was like, Dad, can we please buy a go-kart? He's like, well, let's make one. I'm like, that's not the right answer. Out of wood, really? But like, But I appreciated that later in life. See young kids that are probably not listening to this. Like,
no one's watching.
I'm watching. I'll watch it. But it's like, no, little kids that are watching on your parents' iPads.
Be positively.
Be positive. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this probably came up right after, like, Dora the Explorer, like, recap or whatnot. You know, it's like, oh, why don't you watch this next? Okay, I will. But what were we talking about?
The inspiration behind Black Square.
Oh, yeah, of course. So my dad always did stuff like that. Like, with like, we made, like, wooden go-karts or any idea I had, we would find a way together to make it. And later in life,
are there pictures of these wooden go-karts?
Yeah, there is.
Okay,
I will release them in time as my business lulls.
Yeah,
I'll be like, hey guys.
you could sell blueprints.
Oh right,
it's like extra money.
Here's a little piece of bread for the ducks. No, I'm just kidding. So my dad's always been somebody who's always. I mean, I've been so blown away. My dad's always been genuinely interested in whatever I'm passionate about, and as a man, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really hope I can have that same passion, and not just for what I'm interested in, but whatever my kids or my future wife is into. You know, it's like to be others. And my dad, what an amazing example of that. So Black Square Studio. Mm-hmm. So when I first started recording back, like when I got out of high school, me and my dad he would help me build like sound paneling, where we'd find like substitutes that we could afford, you know, and we just made a room in I think my sister's room. I'm sorry, Christy, we love you, but like once you moved out to college, we went to work at your in your room. And we made it into a studio. And so this is like pink egg crate foam room, you know, back in high school. So my dad was always like there to help me. And so anyway, now, so as you see, there's black squares, you know. He you know, as we got this thing going full time, we did the exact same philosophy. It's like, well, let's study, you know, how things work, how deadening sound works and whatnot. And that was the original start, is we built these black squares, you know, and it kind of resembles to me like my relationship with my dad and how, you know, we started, you know, so as we continue to, because obviously you need to continue to advance and grow. Yeah. As we continue to grow and continue to get whatever's needed next, you know, it's like I'll always remember where we began, you know. It's like it started as something me and my dad did, you know. That'll always mean something to me. And,
it's like what are the, like we were talking about earlier, like what are the necessities I need, and then as things get better and grow, you can get better and bigger things. But like, what do I need now to get going? Yeah, you know, like I've got the essentials right here for me. A good friend of ours, Matt Lewis.
Oh, we love that guy.
He mentioned, and like, we can talk about it if you're like, I'd rather not have this out there. You let me know and I cut it once I learn how to do that. But like, he mentioned that you've decided to not continue doing leading worship.
That's not true. Well, when I was doing ministry for so long, I sort of needed a period where I've been doing that so long, and sometimes, like, you know, that can almost seep into how you see yourself. It's like, oh, well, I must be a better person if I'm, you know, sometimes, you know, it's like I found that I was always doing ministry out of a genuine place, and, you know, but that's after a while, it's like, well, am I an even better Christian if I stay in ministry? Or, you know, it's like, no, of course not. You know, it's like, but you always know that's not the case. But sometimes you're like, you struggle personally with like, oh man, but you start worrying like, oh, like if I went out into the world and started doing what I was passionate about, would I start to maybe lose my faith or not be as on fire? Because all of the people that I've always respected in life are always in ministry. You know, it's like, man, I want to be like that guy. Man, he's got good balance. He's on fire. He's a good man. Like, I want to be a good man. That's the bottom line. You know, it's like I want to be a good man, and so it can be a temptation to be like. For me, it was a temptation for me. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I won't be able to continue. But the Lord has showed me. It's like, well, no. What I'm doing in music, it's like, well, I mean, the same things I did in ministry. I always loved people. I always loved, and that's why I did ministry. It's like, I just love people. I love working with all ages, you know. And so, I really enjoyed it while I was doing it. But now that I took a leap and I was like, well, I've always had this ache to do music. Let me give it a shot. And like I said, I'm like, I didn't even realize I needed to prove to myself that I could do it. You know, and I'm like, wow, I can do it. Wow, and then that elevated me to another level and another level.
Yeah,
and it's like, so now it's I find myself in a place where it's like I find that I'm even more excited, or just as excited about ministry as I was when I started. It's like, and I felt like over time I was just kind of losing some energy and getting a little worn out. I mean, but that's normal because a lot of people feel that in 2 years or 3 years in youth ministry. So I heard a lot of people tell me similar stories, and it's a struggle, man. But it's a beautiful struggle, you know. But but now I feel like I'm doing ministry, or doing the things that I loved about ministry, like even more. It's like I've always loved people, and I get to work with people that I love, which are musicians, and it's easy to relate to musicians for me because I'm like, we're the same. Like, yes, we understand, we get it, and so it's even more exciting for me to treat my music or whatnot, and just incorporate that ministry. And nothing's changed really. I feel like it's even better. You know, even better personalized ministry. It's just like, everybody, you know, I guess if you're a Catholic or a Jew or whatever, like you would, you know, have personal ministries or personal, whatever. But you would, you know, just show, you know, your value or your values or morals through just treating people well or whatnot. Like, and that's kind of, there's a satisfaction in there because, like, not everybody can do ministry. Not everybody can be a youth.
Not everyone should do ministry.
Not everybody should. You know, maybe you're not funny at all to teens, like, and that's huge because teens need to be entertained. No, they don't. They don't be entertained. But so whatever, and that's just it. It's like even with the Catholic, that's what the faith has always said. You know, the Christianity, Judaism, whatnot, whatever you believe. It's like, we try to share who we are through what we do and how we treat people, and the joy that we bring to our craft, and excitement and the generosity. Russell Simmons from Def Jam Records has this awesome audiobook called Super Rich, and he has this quote that he says called The Joyful Hustler, and I'm like, well, that's joyful. He uses the word joyful hustler. I love that term. I've been adapting it, but I think, you know, a lot of Catholics would be like, oh, okay, a saint, you know, or it's like, oh, you're becoming somebody who is excited, joyful, you're passionate about what you do, you've maintained that joyful, that youthful joy that you had when as a kid. Like, whatever you're doing, as long as you maintain that, I feel like that's exactly what the world needs.
Yeah, because like I was actually thinking about him earlier when you were talking about, you know, wanting to work with people who are joy-filled, or be a person that
wants
people
to be around that.
With. Yeah. I've been watching David Letterman's new show on Netflix where he's interviewing people.
His beautiful beard.
Yeah, and he interviewed,
now that he can.
Yeah, he interviewed Jay-Z, and like the backstory was he went and visited Russell Simmons, and although Russell Simmons has to be in his 60s, I guess. I don't know. But like he still looks like a child.
He looks like a young guy, dude, a young hustler. He's maintained that joyful hustler.
Yeah. And
so when he says super rich, it's, by the way, you might think it's a money grab thing. No, actually, it's the point is become rich in more and excitement in life and all the things that make you actually rich, not just, you know, material.
Joy. Like you can see in him, like he's still giddy about, like,
he talks about, you know, my favorite thing in his book. He talks about, I'd listen to it on an audiobook, you know, so it's the same. Of course it is, yeah. So it's like,
I debate that with Eric all the time. Like, you didn't read a book.
No, you didn't.
To a book.
Well, I still got the same stuff. I'm an audio learner, bro.
Yeah. Hey,
we're
man,
different. Yeah. But he talks about, like, becoming that person, becoming that joy that you, I'm sorry. Okay, so he said, it wasn't the as soon as I got that phone call that I made my first million, it wasn't that was the most memorable. It was the joy that I had, like, that I truly believed I had something that was changing the rap game. Like, me and my buddies, like, we had it, and like I just had to share it. What is that? It's an evangelist, really. Yeah. You know, it's like, but what does he believe? He believes he has something that's like life-giving that the world needs, like Christians, you know, like we have the message, you know, and it's truth, it's beauty, it's goodness. I mean, in the same way, that's what people that have, like, oh man, this will change, this will help people. It's the same, in a lot of ways, it can be the same sort of impulse, you know. And so, and that's just exactly it. It's like he talked about, it wasn't the first million that I made that was the most memorable. It was those early years of the struggle, you know. And he even talked about P. Diddy as like, Well, how he got in, he started as like an intern, and he was just the most like excited intern. He's like, man, I believe in what you guys are doing so much. I'll be one of 4 interns. Well, I'm going to be the fastest to get in the coffee. I'm going to be the most willing. I'm going to be the most excited. I'm going to be, you know, like whatever it is. And then, well, of course, like if you ask yourself, like we'd all agree, it's like we want to be around those people. Well, that's who I want to raise up to the next level.
Yeah.
And my brother, man, has been a huge inspiration to me, and he's been doing that in his own job. He was the one who gave me that book, and he's become the best top salesman, or he's rising into one of the better top salesmen. And I'm like, man, and he's like, Matt, that stuff works. Being generous, like excited, you know, sometimes giving things for free. Ooh, that's scary. You know, we sometimes don't do that. But it's like, you know, being generous and helping and making it completely obvious that your consumer is like, well, this person is doing it for all the right reasons. It's like, I choose that guy.
Yeah.
You might not be the most professional, but somebody will pick that over anything.
Yeah.
But then you become that. It's like even Neil Peart from Rush said, it's like even the 70s, whenever it was like punk was a huge thing, it's like, yeah, man, you don't have to be good at music. Yeah, screw that. You know, like, don't be like the Beatles or Zeppelin and be great at stuff. Like, no, we're going to be different. We're going to suck. You know, and it's like, and even Neil Peart was like, well, you just stick with punk for a while. Like, you know, oh, I love punk. Everybody loves punk. Yeah. Of course they do. But it's like sooner or later, just from going on tour for 3 years, you're gonna be good. You're gonna be better,
over and over and over. That 10,000 hour.
Of course, you put the time and you'll be good at anything.
Yeah, and I've experienced that, like, you know, with our mission and going through Harvey and stuff. Like, you know, just recently, this past August, you came out and led worship at a training, and you did.
An honor. I love working with you,
know,
man,
and
just
and like Matt Lewis was like, you know, like anything you need, no charge, I'm there. Like, just phenomenal. Like if I have money, like we're gonna pay him, but like just like that, like, and we work well together. And I love working with you. Something you mentioned when we were hanging out here the first time was, and so basically, if I need a worship leader, you're still open.
Oh, thanks.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned like your experience in like the Christian world, the ministry world, the worship world of just like being burnt out with, like, lack of a better term, like the fakeness of it, and now preferring to be in the secular music world because people are just more real. Like, can you speak to that more?
Well,
and that'll differ between people, but like that was kind of your experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think. Well, honestly, what I experienced, the people I worked with were great. What I experienced was just a personal coming to the end of a season. It was all it was. And like I said, when I was working at my past jobs, I stayed as long as, and I gave as generously as I felt like I could. And really what it was, even as I moved on, was even looking back, and I never had any resentment per se, but yeah, just personal burnout. It's like, well, I think there's something else out there. There must be something else out there. And so I was just kind of praying about it, and I started. And with music, it was and producing was the thing that I was always like, okay, one day I'm going to do that. You know, one day, okay. And around the time that Harvey hit and stuff, it was actually, I was told that my job was making changes, you know, the job that I had, and I was like, and they were like, okay, we're making changes, but we want to be fair to you. We just want to let you know that we might have to cut some positions and stuff, and because it was, you know, it was a struggle for everybody in Houston, you know, and that was understandable. But I saw that as a chance. It was like, you know, God works all things for the good, you know. It was like I felt bad because I was like, well, you can't quit ministry, like, you know, at the end of the summer, because, you know, well, then you got you know, you're starting up CCE, or you can't, you know, quit when the summer starts because you're going on all these mission trips and stuff. So there's never really a good time. But the Lord provided time, and I had no ill will against anything. But I just needed a little time to. Okay, well, I've always been a professional Catholic, you know, and a Catholic. I've always wanted to be a Catholic in general, or a Christian, of course, you know, but I had to, you know, I needed a little time to switch over to how does my faith, or how am I to live this now in this new way of looking at it. So I did. I was a little tired. I was a little burnt out, so I just needed to separate myself a little bit, but But as people just continue to reach out because they love me and whatnot, I slowly started coming around. But I don't do as much ministry as I did because, like I said, I consider ministry, everything that I do, and even the shows that I play. I just have a heart for everybody there, but I just love people in general, and I always will, and always do ministry, and I'll always see everything I do as a ministry as such. So yeah.
I guess what I meant more of like was like, I guess in the Christian world, it tends to be like people want to seem, I'm not looking for names or anything, but like your experience, like people want to seem like holy and like say the right things and like, versus like maybe now you're working with like, people in the secular world, you're like, this is how I am, I'm not gonna like BS you, like, here's who I am, versus like, someone working in a church is like, let me be prim and proper and Christian and like. Well,
I think the bottom line is we all want to be loved and accepted and to be a part of whatever it is we are, and sometimes through no fault of our own, and maybe through the faults of others or the lacking thereof of Christian charity or acceptance or basic acceptance and charity, we find ourselves in a situation. Well, if I'm completely real, I won't be accepted or loved, and so. You start playing this character or forming this character. It's like, well, this is that can be a temptation of like, I'm forming into this character that is the most likable, and so you become sort of fake, or this or that, or you find out that you're not really as authentic. You're like, oh wait, you wake up one day, you're like, oh man, no. Yeah. But I think that can be definitely a struggle for a lot of us. It's like, we at the end of the day, we want to be loved, and we always admire those that are always like, well, I don't care. But, but we want to be that person, of course. Everybody does.
And especially like depending on the ministry, you don't want to be like the youth minister drops like F-bombs. So like whatever. And I guess like within music, what makes good music is someone being real. Like fakeness is not going to make good lyrics, good music, good like the hurt, the pain. You're a sinner, whatever, will translate into good lyrics, will translate into good, musical talent versus just like, let's make something happy, which there's room for that. But like, like you mentioned, this person listens to this person, this person listens to this person, you get back to jazz and blues, and like, it's called the blues for a reason, because they weren't BSing around. They're like, this sucks.
It's an authentic
this is how I'm going to express it.
Sure.
Yeah. What goes into writing a song? What makes a good song, good music?
Well, all my perspective as anybody is they say we're taking all the best bits that we find. Or like, oh man, I always love listening to how people write songs, because like for years I'm like, how do you write songs? I've watched Tom Petty. I've watched History of the Eagles. Everybody should watch that. It's kind of long, but if you like the Eagles, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Glenn Fry talks about how him and he lived right above the floor in LA in the 70s to Jackson Browne, and Jackson Browne taught them on accident how to write music, how to become a serious songwriter.
On accident.
On accident, because what he would do. And they explained it. This is a brilliant scene in the documentary. And they said every morning, like they would party up late, stay up late in the 70s or whatever. Every morning they would hear at the bottom of their floor Jackson Browne, a teapot going off. It's like, oh gosh, really? Yeah. But every single morning there would be the teapot, and then all of a sudden there'd be like a song, and it was like something he's plunking out. It's like bunk dunk dunk dunk. And then he would work on that intro over and over and over again. And then he'd have an intro. And then he'd have an intro. He'd work on the first verse over and over and over again. And then he'd have a chorus. And then he'd go back to the beginning over and over. And then there'd be a stop. And then there'd be it's nothing for a while. Teapot. And then he would... Okay, now a second verse and a bridge, but like over and over. He's like, but he said, that experience taught him that's how you do it. Elbow grease, sweat, blood, sweat, and tears. And so, do you wait around just waiting? I think some people do have that experience, but even Tom Petty would say, like, if you don't go to the, some days if you got to go, if you want to become a good fisherman, you got to keep going to the lake or to the river. Some days you're going to catch some things, some days you're not. But if you don't go, well, you're not going to catch anything. So it seems to be, I guess some people, like, it's like, oh, I only write when I'm inspired, and they can have a career off of that. And but then I feel like most people kind of have that elbow grease mentality. And that, honestly, for me, just really, I like that. I like the work a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, like Erica's a writer, and like the people she worked with and went to school with, like, who are doing it, they're like, yeah, like they're writing every single day, no matter what. Just, they're just like writing,
discipline,
and just practice. And she would talk about like you have a final draft printed in a book, whatever, of a certain poem. And I think there was a poet that like put out all the previous drafts, and like from to the very beginning, and it's like night and day from like what they started with to like the final product. And the final product is like, priceless. It's just like pristine. But like the other, like going to the beginning, was trash. But it's like to see what to see what the final product was, you had to just start. Like,
dude, every Facebook post I post, there's like 5 drafts because I can't even spell, bro. No, it's so good. I can after 5 drafts, of course.
How do you think? And this might be a dumb question, because I think most artists are just like, it's just natural, it just happens, it's what I do. But like, how do you think musicians either? I think lyrics are easier to do this way, but not even, because everyone could sing the same lyrics and not be the same. But like, how do you think music is able to express emotion? Like you could hear like I walk in and like you hear in the blues and jazz play, and like just like the way they sing this, like you feel the angst. Forget the lyrics, you just feel the angst in the voice, the tone, how they're singing it, or even, which I think is more complicated, like just music from instruments. Like you can hear a riff or whatever, and like it brings you to tears, or like an orchestra or something. You're just like broken in that moment, like. If there's an answer, how does that happen? Like, I don't know. I always wonder that. It boggles my mind.
Well, I think in general, if you want to look at it through the lens of the Christian faith or Catholicism, I've heard some great quotes. Through some good friends of mine, or some personal prayer that they've had. I had a friend who was a Franciscan CFR named Father Christopher. He was so cool. He had like a sweet like Maximum Colby beard and even some glasses too.
Beard goals.
That actually looked like I don't think he was trying to be him. Yeah. Maybe he was. I would want to be that. But
it's a tough path to follow.
But something he said was, he talked about like everybody is aching to somehow it's like we all the best music we can possibly have, really what it is it's participation in the Song of Songs. Every really good moment in a song really is just like maybe like a dip into the eternity song, the song that's always playing, the Song of Songs. And Bruce Springsteen even says, I know I'm 2 Bruce quotes in one interview, but he said like during the induction of U2 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I actually read this quote through Christopher West's book, Fill These Hearts.
Yeah,
super good.
So
and that's
good.
what actually turned me on to Bruce Springsteen, was because it was so rich.
Pick that book up. So good.
Because they were good. Yeah. He talked about every truly good rock band desires to get the same energy that fueled the expansion of the universe. Yeah. The fueled the Big Bang. They want something that, they want to like make the sky split open in two, and like for God to pour out, and the earth to split open. And he said it's embarrassing to expect so much or want so much from music, but sometimes it happens. Wow, U2 fans! Yeah. Whoa, yeah, that's right. Because so U2 is so good. Yeah. That's true. but it's true. It's like every good rock band desires for that, and I think that just that desire to give yourself, to give everybody in your situation, something that's beyond yourself, something that's divine, something that's of God. Isn't that like the ache of every rock star? It's like, I just want to like wreck this place. Well, what are you really saying, you know? It's like to give them something that will feed them, something that will remind them of who they are. I don't know. So, yeah. Here's
a good Christopher West story. And I've never met him, but so like I have a blog and I write it every now and then. But the title of the blog is Vertical Wildness, which is from that book. And so I was like super self-conscious. I was like, I can't use like this from his book without permission, like, you know. So I email his group and not expecting anything from him, like hey, like I'm writing a blog, no big deal. Like I want to use this from your book. Is that okay? And he personally writes back and he goes, "How dare you? How dare you try and use my work from my book? You will be hearing from my lawyer." And then underneath, he's like, "I'm just kidding." He's like, "Yeah, go ahead. It's great."
What a guy!
As I'm reading it, I'm like, my heart's pumping. Like, oh my god, what the heck? I'm using this, but I can't go to court. What are you talking about?
Oh my god, yeah. I had an experience like him. He went to the St. Thomas in Houston, like university, and he gave a talk. And I was so struck by his message in one of his talks. I was like, dude, I got so many friends that would love this. Like, can I? And he's like, I was like, can I just like burn a copy? This was back in the day when you'd buy a CD and you'd burn it sometimes for your friends. Yeah. Napster was popular, and then Metallica shut them down. But I'm just kidding. but anyway, he was like, actually, my you know, what is it called? My publisher would mind. I wouldn't mind, but you know what? Stay after. I'll give you whatever I have. I couldn't stay because I had to leave, and so he sent me like 14 of them for free.
That's legit.
Because awesome. Like that's that joyful hustler. Yeah. Like that Russell Simmons. He's been doing it ever since the beginning. Like I saw him like 15 years ago. It seems 10 years ago, and I was just a young guy, and he's still doing it. I actually got to go to his Theology of the Body Institute. I highly recommend it.
Nice. I
played there. Yeah. I got to play a couple of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man, it is. Yeah, it's for everybody. It's just good. It's real good. I've been aching to get back out there. If you want to go to like Amish Town in Lancaster, PA.
Well, I think they do classes in Louisiana.
Like they got a few things here and there. Yeah,
it's growing. I gotta pee.
Dude, I'm honored that you wrote out some questions. Yeah. Like, wow, he really cares.
Yeah, I gave my list to Erica. I was like, what else would you add in? She added like 2 more in.
Nice.
So we kind of talked about like the how the expression is, and it just, I guess, just comes from like the person. Like somehow it enters. Somehow you dip into the Song of Songs, like the universe. Like, but go.
I think it has to do with just an ache. You know, you're aching for something more. Everybody aches for something more. You know, so we want adventure. We want excitement. And I remember when I was at Net, Christopher Crocker, he was awesome. He doesn't work for Net anymore, but he used to work for Net. And he talked about how when you're bored, you can pray. Like all the reasons why you can go to prayer, like God is available when you're bored, when you need something. But especially when you're bored. That really stuck out. I was like, never heard of it. It's like, and it's like when you're aching, when you're bored, when you don't feel like you, it's like, man, there has to be more than just my normal drudgery, just schedule or whatever. There always is, of course. You know, it's like we have this hope for eternity, even as rock stars. Like if you watch some of these early documentaries, with every rock star, it seems like they start from a point of like wanting more. It's like aching, and then from that ache, God's like sees it. It's like, doesn't seem to be many people who are willing to ache or want more, you know. And it's almost like, okay, well, he seems crazy enough. He's gonna get a guitar and shake his ass or whatever. It's like he's willing to be a fool.
Yeah,
I like fools. I always have, you know. And so God is like, you know, David, fools, like people willing to just take risks. And Bruce Springsteen in his new documentary, which I keep talking about. Thank you, Bruce, for paying me a lump sum of $20,000 to keep mentioning your documentary. No, Bruce, I would take it if it was real. No. But it's like he talks. He has a little quote. He says, "It's like if you there's a chance that you could risk becoming your true self.
Ooh.
That's the scary. It's like, will I be accepted? Will I not be accepted? It's a risk, and you might become your true self and change the world.
And we talk about, there's so many parallels between, like it's just life. Like we talk about that in ministry, of like talking with teens or whoever. It's just like the saints were people who took those risks of like letting go. Like, God's going to create something beautiful in me if I'm able to let go of my plans, my fear, like whatever, like. You know.
Those years of doing youth ministry, I would just see it over and over again. Like every teen that was there, and when I was a teen, I was scared to death of what people thought. It's like so every time there'd be good music or whatever, I remember sitting there and being like, "Oh man, I really want to lift my hands. I really want to sing. I want to participate."
Yeah.
But I am literally paralyzed from fear of like what people think. And I remember being like a 6th grader, like, I really wish I had the guts to like put my hands up or participate.
Yeah.
I don't, it's quite hard. Yeah. So I'm just gonna, I'm paralyzed with others think. But I remember looking back, and I started telling myself when I was like afraid of like getting up there and doing it for the first time. I started sitting back and like realizing like, wait a minute, everybody is worried about. Most people worry about what people think, but when somebody's willing to take a risk and get up there and like do it, it's like, how often like do you like judge them as harshly as you're worried that people would judge you? Usually you're like, wow, somebody had the guts to do it. I want to be like that. I wish I was like that. So there's like an admiring that happens, or like, wow, like somebody's willing. And even if you risk like showing your true heart, a lot of us, like I remember, like I think it was Bob Rice, my buddy, who said this, and he said, it's like most of the time we're worried about being rejected when we show who we really are, but most of the time, actually, in reality, you tend to be accepted because people realize, oh my gosh, somebody was willing to let it down and show who they were. I see myself in that. It's like I'm that way too, and so you're really accepted the majority of the time, unless you're really around horrible people. You don't want to throw your pearls before swine, like but like if you're sitting on that fence, you're like, should I do it or should I not? In honesty, especially if you're in a neutral situation, like, I don't know if I'll be accepted or not. Most of the time, you probably will, be accepted, because people are like, wow, like you're willing to take a risk. Like people admire that. Even if you fall on your face, I actually got to go to a concert of this guy, Glenn Hansard. If you've seen the movie Once,
yes,
it's very good.
Yes, so
I got to jam. Well, I went to go see the Swell Season after Once came out. They had a band called the Swell Season, and I went out in Minnesota when I was living, and I went out with a few buddies to go see the show. And I had my guitar in my car because I always have my guitar everywhere. And we were waiting after the show, and my buddy was like, "Dude, we're not doing anything. Can I go get your guitar?" I was like, "Sure, I guess." Yeah. And so, me just being me, I'm not looking for attention or anything. It's like, I knew some songs from the movie Once, the soundtrack, and so I was like, I bet you everybody who's waiting for Glenn Hansard and the band to come out afterwards are waiting in their parking lot by their tour van. It's like, I bet you they would probably get a kick out. So I would just start singing, whatever. And then once they came out, I put it away. I was like, I'm not here to like, hey man, check out my demo,
I can play your song.
Man, bro, I like brought my guitar. Can I like play for you? Like,
sing with me?
Would you do a video with me?
But
anyway, I just put it away and just stood, like leaned on the light post or whatever, which was nearby, just taking it in. Then all of a sudden, like the line was gone, and it was just me and my few buddies and a couple people. And then Glenn Hansard, this Irish dude, he's from Ireland, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to the pub down the street. You want to come?" I was like, and I was like, "Oh yeah." You're like, I'm not doing anything, And so
what time was it?
I had my guitar with me as well because it was like, so I just brought it in, and we went to this little pub, in Minnesota, and it was at First Avenue where Prince played. Ooh, very cool. And he even mentioned it. He was like, "Ever since I was a kid, man, we saw Purple Rain. Like, we always wanted to play it." So they still let that joyful side out, and people like, we love that. People love seeing that side. Yeah. Oh, we keep coming back to that, huh?
Yeah.
So,
like, you're not putting on a front like rock or
it's
whatever.
Like,
movie, like, oh, let's go. Yeah.
Like, exactly. So we played in the bar, and like he's hanging out with his friends or whatever. As soon as I go in, I'm sorry. We go in. As soon as we go into the bar, the owner of the bar was like, "Oh, you brought your guitar? I'll turn off the music so you can play." Nobody knows that this is my hero. It's like, so I'm like, I was like, whatever. And so he's hanging out with his friends and his band, and I just go over and because I was insecure to this group over here. I start playing or whatever. Yeah. And they're having a good time, because I can make people smile. I can, get them singing for the most part. Anyway, they're like, "Man, you're great." Anyway, Glenn Hansard was around there, and he at some point he was like, "Hey man, can I see your guitar?" I was like, "Yeah." Yep. And these drunk people were like, What? Like, I don't know who this guy is. You're good. I was like, and then somebody laughed, or it's like he played, and they were like awestruck.
Yeah.
And then they're drunk and stupid. They're like, "Hey man, I just want to say, stick with it. You're gonna be someone someday. Have you thought about like going on The Voice or something?" Yeah. And then like this girl, like who was one of the fans, like who was lucky like us to go. Yeah. It's like he was like, she was like, "Are you kidding me, dude? He has like a Grammy or whatever." Yeah. And so, but it was impressive. What I got from it was like, dude, I've been around like maybe some. Some artists who were maybe more local, but they were still like, had a little bit of a following, be like so much more ruder and like, "Oh, but I'm, I play at the local churches, dude." Yeah. It's like, I'm like, and I find myself like, really, dude? Like, but Glenn Hansard freaking won a Grammy, and he's like, he didn't even like, he didn't boast that in front of him. He didn't need to. Mm-hmm. I heard a quote that says like something that's truly beautiful, like a mountain, something that's truly beautiful doesn't need to beg for attention. Mm-hmm. It's either beautiful or it's not. Yeah. It's like, ooh. And so, so I mean, I was just really impressed with his attitude. It's like, he knows that he's just like anybody else with this great opportunity. And I think in general, we're admired by that. And anyway, he said to me, one of the things that he said to me before he left when I was playing, we were going back and forth. We played a Johnny Cash song, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he gave me some advice. And it was like, it was on my birthday. I was like, yeah, God, you love me so much. But he said at the end, he's like, dude, don't be like people that were like, who try to get rich quick or famous quick. People really admire the people that they aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and work for years and years. And then I was like, yeah, those are the people I really admire. Mm-hmm.
How long ago was
that? Sometimes like a one-hit wonder is like the biggest curse. Yeah. Because you get famous immediately and then, ooh. Yeah. But, it's like we really admire the people that put years and years and years. Zane Williams had a song that says Overnight Success. Check him out. He's a Texas country artist. He talks about, first you buy an old secondhand amp with a knob that sticks. And anyway, he manages out each step of how to get there. Basically, it's years and years of being on the road. And then at the end, he's like, then all of a sudden everybody calls you an overnight success. It's like maybe you should have, if you only knew. But we love hearing stories like that. Mm-hmm. Why do we love hearing stories like that? What do you think?
I think,
Mr. Interviewer?
Because I think like when you see, I would assume like when you see like people who are famous, you're like, oh, they just jumped into that. Because all you saw was them becoming famous. You didn't. We don't see, the garage band. We don't see the traveling around in a gross, grungy, like van and eating like the leftover burrito on the floor. Like you don't see that. You see like once they get in, and so people think like it's just I can just jump into it. And then like and you have like YouTube stars and stuff like that where it does happen. It can actually happen very quick, but like, but then people do like to be able to relate to people. And if I do know that you struggled and started from,
well, it seems like we're jealous and we're like what? When we see these like one-hit wonders, like, or no, not one-hit wonders, but they get instantly famous, or it seems, it's like we're jealous and we're like we talk mess. There's lots of people talking. We don't. I've never talked mess, but like people in general have.
Yeah, no, it happens from now on.
No, I'm sure it happens. No, but it's like people. We in general want to talk mess about those people. We're jealous, but we're also want to celebrate them as well. It's like I'm glad you had your chance. It's so touching.
Yeah, it's like you want to see like the perfection, like the final piece, but like then you want to admire, and then you can relate to, oh, you started from the bottom. Oh, you're from my town.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Oh, you went to my school. Like so many bands, especially bands like that lasted. Like just recently, I've been listening to a lot of interviews, like 311, like Incubus, like Korn. Like a lot of these guys like went to high school together. They started in band and they started playing shows together, like birthday parties, and like who can't relate to like loving music as a high schooler and wanting to play guitar? Like that's every at least high school guy, like you know. Like,
well, the Beatles. I've watched. Actually, I got into the Beatles not because I was initially interested in the Beatles, but because it's like, well, the Beatles were such a big deal. I should get into the Beatles. Yeah. So because being the intense guy that I am, I bought all the Beatles music then. I was like, I have to study.
Yeah.
I have to, and then I did fall in love with the Beatles a lot, and I learned about their story. I love hearing, that's my favorite thing. I love documentaries that talk about the early stories, and then once they get famous and get into drugs and ruin their lives, that's okay. But I want to hear how they got, it's the exciting part,
Yeah.
And, anyway, the Beatles themselves even like spent like I don't know how many 10 years or I don't know, like just hardcore bar band experience. They went to Hamburg, Germany, and probably where the hamburger was. I mean, I'm American. I don't know anything about outside of America, but it's like
so the hamburger
probably, But they were in Hamburg, Germany for years, just playing and trying to entertain the crowd, and they learned how to sing as a band by putting those years in. And honestly, I think they lived like there's very little known, but I think even like the Beatles would like stay in like dirty basements and sleep in the bottom of a porno store or something, just like and they couldn't wash their clothes properly for years, and then somebody like adopted them, like a local, like photographer and artist or whatever, and like helped them with those things. But even the Beatles, a lot of people think, oh, the Beatles, they were like the suburban kids. Like, no, they were the street kids, and the Rolling Stones actually were the suburban kids.
Yeah.
It was, wait, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's like, so the Beatles were pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And their work ethic. Well, maybe in the beginning. No.
With like your personal music, this might be two different answers, two different questions. Like with your personal music and the music you make with other people, what do you want to convey?
Now this is interesting. I've always related more to the music itself than the lyrics, and the artists that I've always related to, like Ray LaMontagne, love him, man. Or some artists, almost like they don't follow this lyrical structure per se, like they have to rhyme every time. I guess Bob Dylan doesn't feel like he has to rhyme all the time, but like it's the way that the lyrics are communicated, the way it makes you feel, the way that it almost conveys some sort of mystery that can be really deciphered however you are feeling it. So like every song I have like a similar starting place of an ache or I'm in love or singing about something, but really kind of creating, Radiohead, same thing. They like that their lyrics are kind of vague because people can kind of relate to it from different angles. I think that's the beauty of art and the beauty of God, truth. You read scripture, it's like people relate to a scripture verse in 1,000 different ways. And then there's obviously the original intent of the scripture verse, but it's kind of both and, it seems. But so I kind of like that mystery. I think people in general want mystery. Back in the day, James Dean and all these early cool Hollywood stars, like we didn't know enough about them. We're like, we want to know every detail about you,
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until, nowadays we can learn everything about everybody, but I think we yearn for that mystery. It's like, there's mystery around Pink Floyd, for example, the most mysterious band in rock and roll history. Wow. Oh, I got, it's like, so people are drawn to it because there's not enough material out there. And I think somehow, even like Faustina talks about, there, even in the secret of heart, sometimes as Christians or Catholics, we want to be authentic and we want to share ourselves, but sometimes we don't leave room for the mystery, And but it's like, but that's how, it's like God reveals things slowly. There's mystery. We're drawn to mystery,
Yeah. As a musician, someone who's trying to help people live their dreams and make their music, as a lover of music yourself, is there any music a Christian who's seeking holiness and sainthood shouldn't listen to?
Shouldn't listen to, huh? Well,
and here's what I mean. Like, once I got into Christian music, and like you have like, and I worked at a Christian store, and the moms came in like, my son loves Korn and Limp Bizkit and blah blah blah, and I was like, well, here are all these other bands.
Here's the Christian Korn.
But like, and most, like, there are some, you can have your literal satanic bands or like literal immoral lyrics or whatever. That's one thing. But like, is there any music that isn't helpful? Because really, at the reality, like we've been talking about, like music, especially when it comes to lyrics, it's coming from lived experience. Like Korn, like the or any band, and usually the lyricist, especially in like metal and rock, has been through some BS, like abuse or something. Oof. And all they're doing is this is what I've been through, and here's how I relate to it. Let me express it. And then the reason we have this big following is because these people have been through it, experienced it, and we can relate.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, what's your take on that? Because some people will be like, oh, there's cursing, there's an explicit tag on this album, like Christians shouldn't be having that. How dare you as a youth minister have that in your music collection? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess two things come to mind. The first thing is, I think there's certain things that you can listen to or listen to at the time, and it'll affect you depending on where you're at. Probably there's certain things like maybe you just quit hardcore drugs, and listening to anything that talks about hardcore drugs might be a trigger for you. But as somebody who's maybe a homeschool kid who's never had hardcore drugs, it just sounds cool. But they're not gonna try hardcore drugs or whatever. Yeah. So the guy who has a past with that, maybe I can't, because it's too much of it'll lead me into temptation. So what's what does the Our Father say is lead us not into temptation, or the near occasion of sin? It's like, well, what is that for you? But at the same time, there was a period when I first got into my faith back in high school that I took like a year or two off of my old influences, where I kind of had a hard time deciphering what was God and what wasn't. So I kind of made a personal treat, kind of like I when I took a scriptural class, I learned that St. Paul actually, I guess there's reason to believe St. Paul did that when he first had his conversion. He stayed at, what was it, Antioch or whatnot? I don't know. But wherever he was at when he was blinded, there was a period of retreat that he did, period of studying.
He was just out of the scene.
He wasn't just like, man, I experienced God and I'm going to tell everybody how sinful they were. No, that wasn't even what he necessarily did completely, But he took some time to let that deepen, to let that period had a retreat. And that's exactly, I look back with fondness on my little year or two of fasting from things that I just listened to worship music or stuff that was good or that kind of led me towards where I was going, in my faith. But then as I got older and I got a little more rooted in my faith, I could start kind of looking things philosophically, like I wasn't, maybe it was something that would have scandalized me, as it were, at first. Started, like I had more of an adult perspective on it, maybe a more grounding, where I wasn't going to be easily as knocked over in the wind, I guess, if you were. And I was able to listen to it as somebody's perspective, not as, this is your big brother telling you, mentioning drugs. Therefore, I should do drugs. It's okay because it was in a song. Like, okay, I kind of moved past that little brother experience to, okay, it's somebody talking about drugs, or what is their experience? Like, they're sharing their reality. So as an adult now who kind of I have my own set beliefs, I suppose, there are some songs that it's not helpful for me to listen to, but then there's some stuff that I can look back and be like, okay, well, this is their story, and I actually value that. I think that's more refreshing. It's an honest story. It's like, this is where they're at, and this is completely honest and real, and it's refreshing to the heart. And that's why it's so good. So is there things that we shouldn't listen to? That depends on you and God and maybe your spiritual advisor or your counselor. I don't know. I don't think your counselor cares. Maybe they do.
Good counselor.
But I think you listen to the call of the Holy Spirit. There's one quote that I heard at the Theology of the Body Institute. It's really good. They said, "What?" And take note of that song. Maybe it's secular. I hate that word. Maybe it's like something that maybe it's U2. Maybe it's something, but it's a song that's playing that's been staying with you all day. But it's like it brings your heart joy to some degree. I don't know if you've experienced it. Of course, everybody has.
Yeah.
He says, I invite you to consider that maybe that's the Lord singing that song over you for a reason.
Yeah.
What is the truth? Or what is the truth that's attaching your heart? Maybe it's not the original truth of the song. You read later, actually, I wrote this about this, that, and the other, or some groupie that I met in the 1974 or something. It's like, but whatever it was, there can be some universal truth to it that can feed our hearts. Anything good. It's the good aspect of the beauty, the art, that can feed us, And Christopher West in Fill These Hearts said, I consider myself a serious student of pop culture as much as theological tomes, It's like I love looking for God just as much in like some trusted theological material as I do in trying to look for God or to search for God. Ooh, that's why we're relating to Katy Perry's new song, man, because it's like that truth, like, or that the beat or whatever, like, awakens something. It's a good thing. And so that's been a challenge, at least for me in my adult life, is to move further to kind of like, what is the original intent of the song? Okay, well, I'm not going to do cocaine or whatever it is, or whatever, but what is the spiritual side of the song? And I'm not saying a song about cocaine has a spiritual element, or it does or it doesn't, but maybe not tripping over a word, but seeing a bigger picture. What is he saying, Just like with a book, there might be a part in there that they mentioned something, but as you look in the thing, it's like, well, they mentioned something that's a sad thing, like war or poverty or prostitution or drugs or something, but it's a part of like Les Mis, like it mentions prostitution and stuff, but obviously everybody who listens to Les Mis sees a greater picture here.
Yeah.
So it's like, are you able to, are you going to see Les Mis and be like, oh, well, prostitution's okay? Well, really, that's what you got from it? That it's the difference between maybe like somebody who's really naive and still learning. We're all naive forever until God, of course, reveals. But where are you at, I think, is the answer.
And I think it's a hard thing. Like, I think about
It's not a real cut and dry answer.
Exactly. It's not cut and
dry. You can be like, I've had friends that were ministers that were like, I don't want to play a Mumford & Sons song, even if it has all good words, because that might tell somebody that, it's okay to listen to all of their music when they have the F word in the song. Or, it's okay. I don't want to accidentally tell my youth that it's okay to, because they played that one Mumford & Sons song, then that means to them that they can say the F word, and, that was a big jump. Like, it's like, I don't think most kids think that way, but I bet maybe some do. I don't know. But you know your kids better than anybody else, I guess.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot, and been more convinced of finding a way to articulate that to youth, because that's who I mostly work with. But like, because it's important to know that our lives are, it's popular word, but a journey. Like, hopefully where you start is not the same place you end. Like, at least like your maturity or in your faith, like the way I pray now should be praying totally different. Like at the end of my days, but like be deeper and whatever. But like, it's hard to share that, like for this person, it might be fine for them to listen to this or watch this, think about movies. But for you right now, it's not okay. It's not good, because it could lead you, because you're here in your faith or maturity or whatever, and that's not a cut and dry thing.
And that's okay if like, hey, dude, there's nothing wrong with like, hey, let me just, like I said, that first year, first two, or maybe there's periods that you return to that. Really, hey man, I just need to. Heck yeah, dude, do that. I mean, whatever you got to do, like just listen to worship music or don't listen to music at all. Just silence, Gregorian chant. Well, you can listen to that. Yeah, of course you can. It's like, it's like,
Yeah, like
listen to the retreat leader who is over you, the Holy Spirit. It's like follow the people that are placed over you for wisdom, and follow your parents, follow your retreat leader, follow the Holy Spirit, follow reason.
Yeah, because everyone's at their own level and like version of the story of their journey, and like maybe person A can handle this.
Dude, there was a story.
Person B can't.
Yeah, there was a story that I would hear in talks from Christopher West. He would talk about the story of these two bishops that were. Did you hear about this? But it's like there's two bishops are walking on the street, and there's this woman who's scantily clad, who which means she's wearing scandalous material. That would be considered, but by some people. But so they two bishops. One of them averted his eyes. It's like it's the right thing to do. And one guy watched. The other bishop stared. And the other bishop looked at him and was like, "Bishop, why didn't you cover your eyes? Like, you can fall into sin, And the other bishop had tears in his eyes. He's like, wow, like so sad that a woman of true dignity and beauty doesn't see enough of her own value, And that was, which one was right in that situation? Well, both, I suppose, I guess, sooner or later, I guess we sort of want to become as heart ached as God is about situations, but like one bishop knew where he was at, and the other bishop knew where he was at.
Yeah, and there has to be some sort of.
Sometimes there can be pressure for this bishop to be where the other bishop is, and he's not ready yet. Oh, don't look at those scantily clad women if you don't have that where the Lord hasn't brought you to that place.
Yeah,
and some can only see what they see right there, and it messes with wherever the other one can see the bigger picture or whatnot.
Yeah, there has in between those people, like there has to be some understanding of like, hey, I'm here.
It's okay to be where
and that's good, and you're here,
that's all right.
and that's good.
It's all right. Just listen to wherever the Lord's got you in the present moment.
Yeah, like if you just quit cocaine and there's like a drug ministry, like you probably shouldn't be in that drug ministry.
Or maybe you frequent strip clubs and you start praying outside strip clubs. It's not a good idea. Like,
that's okay.
It's okay for those people, and okay not for those people.
Yeah, but people want like a blanket yes or no. It's like, well, there is black and white, but within that black and white, there's some gray. It's true.
It's not an easy. That's why it's good to have people that care about you, walk with you, and talk and get some wisdom. That's something that seems like this. As time goes on, we value less and less the experience of the ones that have gone before us that honestly have an authentic and like, hey man, like. You don't have to make the same mistakes I did. I mean, sometimes you have to make mistakes on your own to really buy into them, but like you don't have to.
You have to follow every.
I mean, that's why our parents are like, please don't make the same mistakes we do. It's like, no, I have to make the exact same mistakes. And then I'll tell my kids like not to make those mistakes, and then they won't listen either. It's like we can listen to people that do love us and care. It's like, okay, if it backs a reason, they explain to me in a way that that is right. Obviously, as parents, that's what we gotta try to do. It's like, just don't do it. It's like, no. It's like, well, don't do it because this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, being good examples.
Yeah, and make your own mistakes along the way. Well, cool. I mean, that's all I've got. I mean, like, is there? I'll ask you for a tour. But like, is there any for people who may be interested in music and in two things. So for like, let's say that people are interested in coming into the music industry, what's some advice you want to give them?
Music industry, well, I think, I guess let's listen to something that we all love. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash said to, this is just another cool little quote, little tidbits that I catch along the way. But I think Dolly Parton was told by Johnny Cash when she was just starting, just follow your gut. Always listen to your gut. And that's something that I realized, like, when I moved to Texas from Florida, I felt a call to do more with music. And I felt that it was really interesting because I felt like God was seeing me. I was like, Matt, I need to talk to you. I'm like, dang it, it's going to be something like go do something I don't want to do. Like, just like it always is. It's always that. It's never that. It's never really that. But I felt like the Lord was saying to me, like, Matt, you want to know what I want you to do? I was sitting on the steps after Mass to receive the Eucharist. I was just playing my music and in the moment, and just it was a great time. And I felt like the Lord was like, Matt, let me talk to you. I see what you're trying to do, but do you want to know what I want you to do? And I was like, uh-oh. It's like, I want you to do more music. I was like, wait, that's it? Nothing else came. I was like, wait a minute. He gave me a personality. He gave me a preference. Maybe he's already given me the roadmap already in me, my gut, my heart, what I want to say, what I've always wanted, all my experiences that have shaped me up to this point. Like, maybe he's just like, go do it.
Yeah, all I've got to do is
just do the best you can, make mistakes, and just keep trying. And yeah, I think Prince said in one of his interviews, like, what's your favorite song you ever recorded? He said the next one. Yeah, because we're always trying to hit the nail on the head just a little bit better than before. I mean, that's the fuel of any good artist. So, look forward to your next podcast, sir.
Sweet.
Because this one wasn't good at all. No, it wasn't good.
Terrible.
It was great. Flip the tables! Look how much we're like Jesus!
Why would someone contact you? And then later on I'll ask you about how people can contact you. But
contact me, yeah.
Why would people... What would people want to contact you for? Like, what do you do? What can you offer?
What I do best is I have a heart of a producer, so I love when somebody comes in with an idea or maybe a not finished idea, but they don't know where to go after that. I am not good at starting my own ideas, but I love. I come up with like 1,000 ideas. I consider myself an idea man. It's like if you need some ideas, you need somebody with an extra perspective, and I do it full time, so it's like I've got the time to think about all these things where you guys do not necessarily. It's like not as much time, So it's like I'm studying about how to how did Al Schmidt, how did Chad Blake, all these like massive producers, how do they record a snare drum? Well, okay. It's like 100. So that's why people are paying me is because of the time, it's like, and so what I try to do is I want to help whatever is already existing. And it's like, well, what do you want? It's like, oh, well, you're looking for this. Okay, well, I think I can add to that. I like to be a collaborator. And just like I said, from that earliest joy and memory that I had, it's like the first time I had the biggest Cheshire Cat smile in the world from Alice in Wonderland was when I witnessed, and I just wanted to be a part of this band experience. And looking back, it's like that's all I've ever really wanted to do is just be a part of the band. And I think that's exactly what the Lord's calling in my ministry. It's like I just want to be part of the band. I just want to help in any way I can. Maybe I help very little, maybe I help a lot, whatever the situation is. So I play trumpet, I play some accordion, I play the Hammond B3 organ, where I'm working on it, and then play guitar, I sing, play trumpet. So I'm always trying to increase my ability to play new instruments and just help with whatever. And I think that's why people invite me in their band. Come see us, Cody Roy Henry Band. There you go. I play the keyboard and guitar and backup sing in that group. Whatever group you invite me to be in, I will add the best I can. So
nice. Well, cool. Thanks. We'll do it next. So, how can everybody who's interested contact you?
Contact me through Facebook or Matthew Cranley Music at gmail.com. That's MATTHEWCRAN as in Nickelback, LEY. Because I would no. Yes, music at gmail.com, or check out my Facebook or Instagram, SoundCloud. I got a few samples on my website, MatthewCranleyMusic.com. Just find a way, contact me, or contact this guy. He'll give you my information, I'm sure.